Okay. Here we go. I'm a little bit out of practice, to be honest, because it's such a long time since we did the last one of these. And Sue's just called me out on Discord saying I said it was too long since the last one. The last time we did one as well, which is probably fair enough. They will become more common as we start to move into kind of the launch of phase 3 with cities and blocks and level 4 avatars and the gamification and all of the kind of stuff that we've been talking about for just over 6 months now. So yeah, as that starts to drop, these will be way more common. We will do our very, very best to do one every 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on what's going on anyway, just so we can give you an update and kind of keep in touch and talk about what's going on. Which brings me on to giving a bit of an overview of where we are and what's been happening. So I'm not going to go all the way back to January, I don't think. What we'll do is we'll talk through kind of level 3 and so on, give a bit of a dev update, and then move into the questions. There's a lot of questions, and the majority of them kind of relate to more complex things that are starting to roll out. So what I'm going to try and do is take a bit more time to go into some depth around the mechanics, around our thinking behind the token, and behind a few other things as well. And I've just seen somebody in Discord say that they can't hear me, so bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Could somebody who is listening and in Discord give us a heads up if you can or can't? Well, if you can't hear me, you're not going to say anything, but give me a heads up if you can hear me. I'm just waiting for anybody to reply in Discord, just in case. Okay, we've got hands up. Okay, so you can hear me. Okay, good. So it's just DK Random that can't hear. All right, we'll stop the whole AMA just to give DK Random a heads up and say that everybody else can hear, and it's just DK that can't. Okay, I'll carry on now. That's good. So yeah, I'm going to try and go into more depth around the gamification, the tokenomics, and some of our thinking behind that. As time goes on as well, we're going to be releasing more documentation, white papers, and so on that talk about this kind of stuff. But there's some quite important stuff that I'm going to talk through tonight. Again, I'll go into as much detail as I can, but if you've got any follow-up questions, drop them into the AMA channel on Discord. We are monitoring that while we talk through this as well. So if there's things that you want to find out and want extra detail on, ask away, and I will do my very best to answer. The one thing that I will say is keep in mind that some of this is a moving feast. So we are building this in a way that lets us kind of adapt and change as time goes on. So if we don't think we've got it quite right on day one, it's not as if it's all set in stone. And again, I'll talk a little bit about the crossover between the kind of the blockchain crypto side of things and off-chain as well as we go through this AMA. So yeah, first, intro. So the avatar revamp, new art rolled out, and the feedback has been really, really positive. So it's exactly what we were aiming for. It took a huge amount of time and a huge amount of effort, as you will probably have seen. And we kind of think that a lot of projects that dropped, if they saw the kinds of issues that we saw, they might not have bothered going through and doing this update. And I would hope that the fact that we have done that and spent a huge amount of time and effort going back and redoing a lot of the artwork kind of shows how committed we are to this long term. Massive shout out to Ahura. Like, he took so much time and so much care over this latest round of updates. He spent a lot of time and a lot of care on the first round as well, but timescales were so tight getting level 1 out that there were a few kind of shortcuts that had to be taken. So this time around, I think he kind of really got into the groove of things. Aside from that as well, like Twicky and Vortex, you guys spent a huge amount of time making sure that everything was managed properly and getting that done. So a massive thank you. And also a couple of other of our artists, so Christian and Emilio, without their support, and this was all the way back to the end of last year, but in particular with this update as well, there's no way that we could have done what we did without Christian and Emilio. So massive thanks to those. Level 3 drop, we were on time. There were no issues. That was weird, but we got it done and everything rolled out, and we were really happy with it. So, being honest, the last week before the level 3 drop was busy. The production of the new artwork is way more difficult because it's actually two-step. So what we have to do is we create the avatars and we create the layers, and we build all of those together. And then there is some post-processing that gets added onto the artwork afterwards as well. And that has to actually be done off server. So the server generates the actual avatars, and then we have to download those, process them via a Photoshop script on a PC, and then re-upload as well. And you can imagine like we're doing that for level 1, 2, and 3, and 4, with and without gear tokens, and they are obviously high-resolution images, so you can imagine the amount of processing that goes on and the amount of uploads and downloads that have to happen as well. It's it takes a lot of time, but it was really, really worth it. Next thing, comic drop. When drop? So this week. It's been ready for a little while. There's a couple of people that have already noticed that there may be the first mint already on OpenSea. We are going to be dropping the comic this week. There is one change that we need to make, which will allow pre-minted avatars to claim the comic. I talked about this last time. So instead of only allowing multi-passes to claim a comic, any avatars that have been minted up to the point that we launch will also be able to claim. Now, this is a gas-only drop, and there will be one per avatar or multipass. There isn't really a time limit. We may end up limiting it at some point, but right now it's going to drop. You'll have all the time in the world to claim. So pick a time when gas is as low as possible, probably not when BASE drop their ApeCoin or anything like that. But to be honest, like gas has been a little bit lower lately anyway, so hopefully you can claim that and not pay very much. I saw that some of the avatar claims were costing as little as, it was like $4, I think, for some of those mints, which is exactly what we want. So the comic should be at least as, if not lower than that. Moving on to dev. So I'm going to give a quick update here, and then as I go through the questions, there's way more to talk about around dev. So first things first, we've got a couple of known issues with gear tokens. I know that QuadraQ and a couple of other people, and their names don't come into my mind at the moment, but we've got a few people have got some issues with gear token claiming and being able to apply and so on. There is a metadata issue related to JJ, which is quite an easy fix, but that then means that we have to manually refresh anybody who's been affected's metadata into OpenSea. So that's going to take a little bit of time. More importantly, there's a couple of failed transactions with gear tokens that we know about. We are working on that. It's taken way too long. Quadra, I don't know if Quadra's on tonight, but I've already apologised to him in a DM, and I'll apologise in public again. Like he's had a couple of issues, and we've taken a little while to fix that just because of everything else that's been going on. Moving on to kind of general dev, I'll start with the bad, and then we'll move on to the good. So I think the bad, some personal issues which I mentioned on the last AMA, and we've been quite open about on Discord as well. The original dev that worked on this wasn't really available for a few weeks, which really slowed things down just as we were engaging with the other team. Things started to speed up and everything was going really well, and then the Ukraine-Russia thing happened. And I won't talk in loads of detail because it's not really fair to the individuals, but because of the location of the team that we are working with, things have slowed down again. The good news is that the original dev is back up and running. All the personal issues are kind of sorted. He was always going to be involved, but he's having to pick up more of the strain now. He isn't working on anything else other than Awakened, so that is really, really picking up pace. But he does need some more support. So we are having to go back out and engage with a new set of front-end devs. We're going to get some more support on the smart contract side of things as well. And we are going to get some support on the back end side of things, because there's kind of three parts to it. There's smart contracts, there's how things look on the site, and then there's how things actually work in the kind of back end functionality and database and storage and so on. So things are moving. They are not as fast as we have wanted them to be, but they are moving on. So yeah, we're doing all we can to kind of make sure that things move at the pace that we want them to. Onto the good though, progress has been really good. So the smart contract side of things for the token and blocks, which is what we're calling real estate, so cities, that's moving on really, really well. The architecture for the interaction between on and off chain is starting to take shape as well. I'm going to give a bit more detail on the on chain, off chain crossover in a few minutes as well. front-end work for the management side of things. So logging into the site and being able to view your wallet and being able to see all of the avatars that you hold and the blocks and the kind of token accumulation and all of that kind of stuff, that's starting to progress really well as well. So there's a lot of design work to do there. Twicky and Vortex are leading on that side of things with one of our designers, Gemma, and obviously Ohora is going to be involved there as well. He's desperate to start really kind of flying through some of the city side of things, and we've just about managed to hold him off up until now because there was so much to do on avatars. But every time he messages at the moment, it's like, I need to get my hands on these cities. So I think this week is when he's finally going to be able to do that. I've just noticed one question on Discord that says, Awakened, did you press record? Yes, I did. So anybody that is having audio issues for whatever reason, maybe it's Twitter being a bit rubbish, we are recording this, so anybody will be able to listen probably tomorrow once that gets uploaded. Like I say, there's a lot more dev to talk about as this goes on as well. So I'm going to kind of move on to the questions now, and that's when we'll start to get I'll start to give some detail. Okay, so first, general, Vivian. How's life been for the team? Hope mental health, physical health is all good. Yeah, I haven't been ill for a while, which is really strange. And I think we're all kind of in a good place, happy, healthy, as far as kind of happy and healthy goes in the crypto space. Just busy, constantly busy, isn't it? But yeah, we're in a great place. Thank you. Mist 3. Can you tell us about your plans for marketing now you're in the stage where cities are just around the corner? Yeah, so there's a couple of parts to this. We've always said, and I feel like a broken record talking about this stuff, but we've always said that having a great product is what we need to do kind of the base level of marketing. So everything we roll out, we're trying to do to the highest possible quality. But following on from that, we know that we need to get out there and start shouting. So as things start to drop, and you'll have seen that from level 3 as well, we're starting to get a bit louder on Twitter, and we're doing it kind of short bursts at the moment, just to kind of start making that flywheel turn a little bit more than it has been. But as things drop and as that starts to ramp up, so will our outreach. So obviously Twitter's a big part of this. We are whitelisted for Reddit ads as well, which is relatively difficult to get unless you're spending huge amounts of money with them now. But fortunately, we are whitelisted to run Reddit ads. We've also got some really good relationships with influencers, and we've held off on asking for them to help up until now, just because things have been quiet. We're in that build phase. So when things start to drop again, we have the likes of Ryan, who's been on the project from day one. I haven't spoken to him for a little while, but we touch base now and again. We'll get in touch again with the likes of Ryan. Crypto Gorilla as well. He was involved in the project from day one, and again, we'll reach out to him. And there's a good few other people as well that we have good relationships with. So once things start to roll out, we will start to leverage those relationships. But it's down to us doing a great job. You know, influencers who are worth their salt won't talk about a project unless they actually care about it. So we need to make sure that we do the best possible job, because we've never been the kind of project that will just go and drop a load of ETH into a random influencer just so they shout about it, even if they don't care. Like that's not us. It will never be us, and it's not how we do things. Like we want to build this on merit, and we want to build it based on the fact that we do have something great, and we still believe that. We've always believed that, and that's not going to change. Next, Zythus. First question from Zythus. Hello, Stephen. This is Clem Fandango. Can you hear me? Obvious response is, who the fuck are you? If nobody knows that reference, then just get on Google and get on YouTube, and you will see it. More seriously, though, Zythus, any plans to introduce us to the additionally hired team members if they want to? Yeah, wouldn't hold anybody back. Again, like that's just been it's been kind of me and Twicky and Ahura and Vortex kind of on the front of this. If anybody else wanted to drop into Discord, we would never stop that. To be honest, when we asked the likes of Christian and Emilio, they just wanted to sit in the background and get on and get shit done. But yeah, like if the time comes and it's the right thing, then we would definitely introduce more people. Okay, moving on to avatars. So first, for Awakened DZen09, have you considered visuals of the cities to be the backgrounds on level 4 characters? Yeah, we have thought about this. The issue is colouring. So if you have a colour that is assigned to a city, those colours are already in place, so we can't change the coloured backgrounds of avatars now, because if something looks great as a purple background, for example, and we start changing it, people are going to get quite annoyed. Having said that, we do have an upgraded visual for the backgrounds on level 4 characters already, and I know that this was mentioned on Discord as well. I know Hora's got some ideas. So yes, it's something we've considered. I won't promise that cities will be built into the backgrounds of the avatars on level 4, but I will promise that the level 4 backgrounds will look like level 4 backgrounds. Zythis. I'm under the impression that level 1 and level 2 avatars receive a decaying in-game bonus. Since the city's release is taking its time, which I'm fine with for you, will this bonus be extended? Yeah, I suppose this is the first big announcement that we are going to make. And this is quite a big one for anybody who has already minted an avatar and probably for the secondary as well. So when we launch the token, what we are going to do, actually I'll give some background to how the token's earned by avatars first. So each avatar has a base level of passive earnings for the Awakened token. Now the Awakened token is essentially our in-game currency, and that lets you do things like buying city blocks and other stuff that I won't talk about just yet. But each avatar, as I say, has that base level of passive earnings, and that's done each day. Now, the level of avatar affects that. Whether or not the avatar has a gear token applied also affects that, and it works basically on a multiplier. Now, what we're going to do when we drop the token is we're going to backdate the earnings for every avatar to the day that they were minted. So if you minted a level 1 avatar back in December, the token the Awakened tokens that have been earned by that avatar will start on the day that avatar was minted. So we've always kind of hinted that there will be a benefit to minting early and having an avatar. When level 1 dropped, there were a few people that decided that they would take that risk, and we've kind of planned to repay that faith. So yeah, if you have a level 1 avatar or level 2 or even a level 3 now, and you minted before, we're going to backdate those token earnings when it drops, and that means that that avatar will be slightly ahead. Next, Quadra. So when upgrading an existing avatar using a high-level multi-pass, the persona, city, and gear all stay the same, correct? What about the other traits? Do they remain but just at a higher level, or is it essentially a re-roll of the other traits? What about the rarity of said traits? Okay, so each trait has its own rarity, and that isn't specific to the level that the avatar is at. So if a trait is rare at level 1, it will be equally as rare at level 3. Now, there is potentially some complication for level 4 because there's a couple of extra things that we're adding in, but it's all kind of static and consistent for levels 1, 2, and 3. Now, when you upgrade it, it's not a reroll, but what you will find is that there are certain things that don't appear on a level 1, and you don't know that they're there on a level 1, but as you upgrade to levels 2 and 3, they start to appear. So it may seem like you're getting new traits, and therefore it's a re-roll, but it isn't. They're already decided from day 1. We know for every avatar that exists how it will look for level 1, 2, 3, and to a point 4. So yeah, the traits are there. They are already saved. They're already stored. The artwork's actually generated for each of the different levels as well. But the system goes through and it updates the metadata when you process that upgrade. So it's not a re-roll. The rarities stay the same. Also from Quadra, could we have a function to select the specific gear once applied to our avatars by spending the Awakened token to do so? I wouldn't rule this out. It will be a change to how we process things, though. So at the moment, the way that things are processed is that we go through and we randomly select traits. We then create the images. We then do all the processing, and then they go onto the server. And when you claim an avatar or mint an avatar, the metadata is picked up and pushed through to OpenSea. Now, if we were going to allow you to select specific gear, that means that we have to dynamically change which gear is applied to that avatar. And refresh the metadata. Now, that would ordinarily be fine because the system does that anyway. The post-processing that goes on now to make things look a little bit kind of darker and more cyberpunk that I talked about before make this way more difficult. So I wouldn't rule it out, but we would have to work out a solution for making that happen. Next, decoding crypto. I haven't minted my avatar. Is it it is important to mint one, or should I hodl the pass itself? What would be better for the long term? I have one level 3 and one gear token. If you only have one, if you have one multipass and one gear token, it's a bit of a fine balance now. Now we're at level 3, because the difference in earnings for the Awakened token, if you're interested in that and interested in playing the game, are going to be marked, but not massive. There will be a difference. So level 4 is going to earn more than level 3, but the amount of time between now and when level 4 drops is a reasonable amount of time. So if you want to kind of be in there and doing things from day one, it might be worth thinking about minting that level 3, but it is a fine balance. And I've seen some artwork for, because we're still working through level 4 at the moment, we have an internal deadline of making sure this is all kind of done, dusted, generated in April. The level 4 artwork looks absolutely sick. And like I say, with the Awakened token earnings being higher, if you're in this kind of for the long term and you're in no rush, then you could hold on. So it's, to me, like if I was sat in your position and knowing how it's going to work, even genuinely, it's 50-50. So it's completely up to you. Next, Zythus. Zythus, you asked a lot of questions this time, which I'm 100% here for. You mentioned going and expanding into 3D as a possibility. Is there a specific art style the team has in mind? Are we talking purely 3D NFT art? Not a fan. Or 3D gaming? Please no sandbox voxel art. I really don't think it's looking good. This is way in the future. So it's something we've talked about. It would be more along the lines, if we were to do this, and if we were to do this in the way that we would want to, it would be more along the lines of 3D gaming than it would be voxel art. The only thing that I would say is that NFT Worlds is quite appealing, because it lets us build out a place that people can go and engage and do things relatively easily. Now, will that be a thing in a few months' time? Who knows? So again, like I'm struggling to give you a solid answer here, because we genuinely don't know. But if we did go down the 3D route, we would want it to be as high quality as possible. The only issue is that we have so many avatars at all of the different levels with so many different assets that it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of cost to get that up and running. So we would need the project to have done what we want it to, and to really kick on. Honestly, like, we would love to do it, but it's very much an unknown at the moment. Okay, next, cities, land, and game mechanics. There's a lot here. So, Sphinx, when white paper, will you guys be issuing a white paper of sorts to lay out the plan going forward and how things will exactly work, the game, the cities, land, weapons, etc.? In short, yes, there is already one that is 95%, about 90%, yeah, at least 80% written, that Vortex put together. He's done a great job on it. There's some detail that I need to go in and update. There's some comments that we need to drop in. There's a couple of things that have probably changed over the last few weeks as well, but we already have what we're calling a light paper up and running. So yes, we will definitely drop that in as soon as we're comfortable doing so. Quadra, there seems to be some question about land in terms of what will be needed to claim it. Will you need multi-passes in addition to avatars, or will avatars alone be enough? Avatars alone will be enough. So we said from day one that as this project progresses, what we will have is this kind of slow and subtle shift at first, and then that will probably pick up pace, and it's a move from multi-passes to avatars. So on day one, multi-passes were the thing, and multi-passes let you get your avatars as well as let you claim your comic and gear tokens and so on. When we start to really kick into this next phase, it is all going to be about avatars, and they are tied to everything. So you use your avatars to claim your block. It's your avatars and the level of those which give you kind of base multiplier for earning of the token. So it's all about your character. As well, we've got this thing that we've talked about, which is around jobs. So avatars will go and do certain jobs, and think of those as missions. They could be short-term, kind of quick things that take an hour, or a longer-term mission that takes 24 hours. Again, that's how you earn additional Awakened tokens. And then in the future, as well, as we move into potential combat mechanics, again, that's going to be tied to your avatar. Okay, next. can you provide, and this is from Quadra as well, can you provide any information about the Awakened token and how it will work? Yes, I've kind of started on this already. I think it's our in-game currency. So the Awakened token will let you go onto a marketplace which will sit on awakened.net and buy things that are related to the game. The best example I can give of this is blocks. So buying land will be done with the Awakened token. Now there is a sliding scale in how much that costs, and that changes as time moves on. So the more blocks that are minted, the more expensive they become. And obviously Awakened token earnings are a big part of that, because depending on the level of avatar that you have, the amount of avatars, the amount of blocks and so on, that impacts the amount that you can earn, and therefore the speed at which you can you can buy more real estate. From day one, it will be only available to use through our website. So we don't plan on releasing it on Uniswap, for example, from day one, but that is built in. So at a future date, and it could be a couple of weeks, it could be a couple of months, depending on how things progress, we will launch on Uniswap, but from day one, it's going to just be in-game currency through our marketplace. Next, Habiki, will there be a max supply of land? Yes, in short. Also, will land be required for avatars, or is it a bonus? And can multiple characters in your wallet or otherwise use the same land? Okay, so will land be required for avatars? No, not required. It is a bonus, and it's part of the kind of the blockchain gamification stuff that we've been talking about from day one. You cannot assign a block to multiple avatars. So it's one block assigned to one avatar, which then affects token earnings. Next, Awakened DZN09. Will there be greater benefits to holders that have more than one multipass, i.e. the more multipasses you have, the more perks that holder will get? No, not for multipasses, but there will be for avatars. So if you hold multiple avatars, then your token earnings will naturally increase. This actually leads on to the next question from Quadra as well, and the next question from Zythus. So I'm going to read those out, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about those mechanics. So Quadra asked, can we get any info on which is more advantageous, having multiple avatars in one city or having an avatar in each city? And Zythus asked, the recent weeks saw a good amount of NFT accumulation towards a few wallets. I don't have an issue with that, but I do fear a bit for the game's economic stability. It could be dominated by a handful of players. Have we been thinking about this? And then Zythus goes on to talk in a bit more detail about that. So we have this concept of diminishing returns. So if you have an avatar and you assign a city block to that avatar, then your earnings are based on a multiplier. If you assign multiple city blocks, and you have to be in a city, so you have to have an avatar in a specific city and have that city block from that same city to be able to apply it. So if you apply one block to one avatar, the multiplier is 1 for argument's sake. The next time you apply another block, so you apply 2 blocks to the same avatar, that multiplier is then, for argument's sake, 0.9. And the third block would then be 0.8. So there's a concept of diminishing returns. So yes, you're earning more by assigning multiple blocks to the same avatar, but you're not earning as much more as if you had another avatar with one city block. So there is a benefit to having more than one avatar. There's this concept kind of rings true through pretty much every mechanic we have. So that there is a real benefit there to people who hold multiple avatars or multiple blocks, and by proxy multiple multipasses. But that does diminish. So what we're trying to do is keep some semblance of balance. So even if you own 50 different assets, yes, you're going to be way ahead of somebody who only owns one, but you're not going to be 50 times ahead. So we are trying to balance that. It's hard. Like any in-game economy is difficult, and I've been building in-game economies for the best part of 15 years in one way, shape or form. So it is difficult, but we will do our best to make sure that there is balance, because it needs to be fun for everybody. Yes, we want to make sure that people who have really invested in us and really kind of put that faith in us have that advantage, But equally, like, we're not the kind of project that just wants people to be whales and wants people to spend as much as they possibly can with us. That's never been how we do things. So if you own a multipass or a couple of multipasses and a couple of avatars, you need to be able to have as much fun as somebody who has 50. So we'll try and keep that balance. Okay, next from Zythus again. Cities and their DAO will be a central concept of the game. Will the DAO be purely majority-based democracy, and could the citizens agree on other forms of government, e.g. electing a mayor or council? So yeah, to be honest, the DAO mechanics we have a framework for, but we haven't got loads and loads of detail of exactly how the voting mechanism works yet, purely because the DAO is launched a little bit further down the line. So I wouldn't see it as being a purely majority-based democracy because, again, going back to what we said before, that could mean that one person can pretty much or very easily take over a whole city. We want there to be kind of some balance, and we want that politics as well. We want people to have to talk to each other and try and get buy-in from other people to get the things that they want done through. So we have a couple of things that we are working, which, again, the concept of diminishing returns is probably a good way to describe this, that will make things a little bit more complicated. Again, Zythus, will additional land plots be possible, minted against ETH or in-game tokens? Yeah. So you obviously claim the first block with your avatar. The first one will be a free claim, and then future ones will be claimed with the Awakened token. Okay, 3 more questions from Zythus on the token. Will it be tradable without paying crazy gas fees? Yeah. Again, I covered this a few minutes ago. So from day one, it's on our marketplace and our marketplace only. But in the future, then we would look to launch on the likes of Uniswap. Will the token have to be claimed after accumulating, or is it magically appearing in the wallet? Okay, so this goes back to what I was talking before about blockchain and how that crosses over. So how Awaken kind of crosses over with blockchain and off-chain. So the way that earnings happen is off-chain. So your avatar and your blocks, they accumulate the token, and that is stored in our database completely off-chain. When you're ready, you are then able to claim that token. Now, the reason we've gone down that route is that we didn't want to go down a more kind of traditional staking mechanism. So you stake an NFT, whether that's an avatar or a city block, because of the gas thing. So the way that we think about this is because there's so many assets, it's not as if you just have a PFP that you stake and then you earn a token. There's a lot going on here, and there's probably a lot of movement as well because you want to move blocks between different avatars. There is potential that we will allow avatars to move between different locations as well. So we don't want to do everything on chain because it just means that there's more and more and more gas fees going on. The idea is that you will build up those tokens that will be kind of assigned to your wallet, and you can log in and check your earnings through the site. And when you're ready, you claim them, and then that's when it moves on chain. So once you move on chain, the token is then transferred into your wallet. Zythus as well. Guppygang NFT is splitting their project amongst ETH for the NFT itself and Polygon where the token's happening. Would that be a worthwhile idea? Now, that is something that we thought about. The reason that we haven't done that is that we knew, because of the way that the mechanics worked, we needed to keep a reasonable amount of this off-chain, and it actually makes it kind of, I was going to say easier. It doesn't make it easier from a dev point of view, but it just makes more sense. And one of the things that we're really interested in as a team as well, and I was chatting to the lead dev about this last week, was that idea of a hybrid. So what should you do on-chain? And what actually is better off-chain, and we're trying to keep that balance. So yes, Polygon would definitely have helped with that, but actually the way we think about this makes more sense to stay with ETH, stay with ETH for everything, but take some of the mechanics off-chain. As time goes on, I'll talk about this loads more as well. I could kind of sit there and have back and forth with people on this all night because I find it really interesting. There's no right or wrong answer to it either. So as time goes on, hopefully we get it as close to right as possible. Next, related to this is gas. So Ethan, have the team thought of don't know what happened to my voice then. Have the team thought of collaboration with another project to reduce gas fees on Mint? We're always watching what other projects are doing, but I don't think we've ever had an issue with the amount of gas that people are paying in comparison to other projects. Like from day one, we've been really, really well optimized. So even when gas was at a horrendously high amount, there was days when we were seeing gas at 250, 300, 400. If you looked at the amount that it would cost to mint a multipass compared to minting another project, we were always way lower, or at least on the low side. So I don't think we've had an issue with that in the past, and that's not something that we wouldn't want to change that. Awakened DZ09. Regarding gas, a method used in the Knights of Chain project is to cap gas at $40 written into the minting contract. And then, okay, so I'd have to have a look at that. I don't know how they would cap gas at $40 unless they are automatically paying for a proportion of the gas fees. Again, like we've always kept gas as low as we possibly can. That's not going to change, and we've had avatars that have been minted for $4. So, yeah, hopefully that's never going to be an issue. There will be times when the network is busier, so you will pay more gas. But again, like we're building this in a way that is a hybrid between on-chain and off-chain. So you can decide when to claim the token. You can decide when you mint your comet. You can decide when you apply your gear token. So we're doing our best to give you that flexibility. And we think that's actually in the future where the power of the blockchain is really going to come into its own. You pick and choose when you want things to be properly stored on chain, but when you don't, you can take these actions, and that's off chain, and they just sit there waiting for you to almost confirm them, for want of a better term. Okay, questions from tonight. So Solarverse, the sounds are totally fresh. Who's doing the sound on the NFTs? Yeah, we found a really, really good sound engineer to work on these. They took a lot of time to get right. We had quite a lot of back and forth on it, but yeah, he's great, and we are going to keep putting sound into the various drops as well. We haven't put any sound into avatars yet, but again, with level 4, I definitely wouldn't rule that out. Next, Chachi. Still being typed out, so give me 1 second. Is the city art style going to be like this sneak peek, which is the factory city block that we dropped in, or more in the style of the website and avatars? Yeah, so the sneak peek is genuinely, it's a part of one of the city blocks, and that's just one building, so it is going to be in that style. We with the updates to the avatars as well, we tried to bring things together a little bit more, and I think Ahora's done a great job of that. But yeah, so for city blocks, it is 3D, more in line with the multipass and the gear tokens than the kind of hand-drawn avatars that we have. Also from Chachi, can you provide a rough estimate of when the cities and token might be implemented, even the month? Yes, I can. So we are now looking at April for the token drop, with passive earnings on avatars. Cities, my heart wants to say April, and if I look at one of the team members, they're kind of looking at me and frowning and saying and crossing their fingers. Hopefully April for cities, but there's a lot of production, like the 3D art side of things, there's a lot of production to do there, and there's a lot to do on the smart contract and earnings side of things as well. Plus, we've been kind of pushed behind with everything that's happened on the dev side of things as well. So I would really, really hope it's going to be April, but I'm not going to 100% promise now, because we might have to roll things over, which we really don't want to do, but it might end up happening. There's also jobs as well and missions, which we are going to be dropping around a similar time to the cities. So that will roll out, and there's a few other things as well that we're working on, which kind of bring the game to life over time. The mechanics, though, for things like the DAO already sit within the smart contract for the token, so that is there, and the functionality for that will be ready for when we roll out the DAO functionality in the future. So there's a lot of kind of architecture and framework work that's gone on over the last 6, 8, 12 weeks to get this as far forward as it possibly can. But yeah, we're working through it as quickly as we can. Chamagil, why did you guys choose 3D for the cities? Is there a specific reason? Good question. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think we just thought it looked cool, which maybe isn't the answer you're looking for. I suppose there's a lot that's kind of changed as time has gone on since we launched this, and with multipass and with gear token as well. it just felt natural that the cities would be 3D as opposed to hand-drawn isometric art, for example. The other thing as well, I guess, and this was probably subconscious, was that we would 100% have wanted Ohora to lead on the artwork for cities if it was being hand-drawn. He's been 24/7 on avatars for the last 6 months or so. So there's no way that we were going to drag Ohora away from the avatars and move him on to cities. And honestly, we wouldn't have wanted anybody else to work on that. So 3D, and this was never a conversation, but 3D just made the most sense. Okay, and I think that is all the questions for now. One person's typing, so I'm going to give them a couple of seconds and just kind of carry on filling and saying random words until they finish. But again, like we've been through a bit more detail tonight on the token side of things and earnings and avatars and so on. So I'll give everybody a little bit of time to digest that. But if you do have any follow-up questions that you want to drop into either the vault or general chat, please do so. Like I say, the actual kind of multipliers and detail on the mechanics that sit behind this are already in the light paper that Vortex is led on, and we are showing exactly how that diminishing return functionality and concept works. So there is plenty more on the way that will show you exactly how that's going to tie into everything that we're doing. Finally, I will say, none of this is 100% set in stone yet, but the backdating of the token earnings to avatars from their mint date is 100% going to happen. So we'll be rolling things out that way. And I think that is all the questions that we have. No? Okay, one sec. AMA channel. All right, so from Sue, can we get some confirmed information about a certain new character? Yeah, we have a... we have a new character which will roll out at level 4. I'm not going to tell you exactly what that character is just yet, but he is a he, and maybe isn't 100% human, is all I will say at the moment. Big Beast, are you able to give theoretical examples of what other items might be purchased in the marketplace using the Awakened token beside the city blocks? So I suppose there are going to need to be things that kind of upgrade and change the way that your avatars interact with our universe. So things like moving cities is something that we would almost certainly roll out through the marketplace. There are also likely to be other NFTs that get dropped into the game, maybe related to missions. So, the idea that you will need items to complete certain missions and move through that storyline, which will then give you the opportunity to up your earnings as well, and kind of get your avatar to move up through the echelons of each city. So it's those kinds of things that you will need to progress that will be sold through the marketplace with the Awakened token. Chachi, what you call city blocks? Are you referring to land? Yeah, exactly. So you buy a block, which is a city block, and that is essentially the land. DK, will there be any use for multipasses once we minted all the avatars and gear tokens? Once we mint all the avatars, there'll be no more multipasses. Yeah, correct. So at some point, assuming that everybody uses their multipass to mint, that'll be it. There'll be no more multipasses, which means that over time, there will be, in theory, more value to the multipasses that are still in existence because they won't have been burnt and they will be the only way for you to mint an avatar or apply a gear or claim a gear token. Where are we? Vortex had just called the new character Gary. Definitely not called Gary. Maybe not called Gary. Awakened DZN09. Do we earn tokens holding a multipass or only by holding an avatar? Only by holding an avatar. Again, over time, we're going to move away from multipasses into avatars. And DK confirmed that as well. Thanks, DK. Chachi, who buys and owns the city blocks, your avatar or your wallet? Same thing. So you own them. A city block will be an NFT and will be kind of visual, so 3D art, and that will sit in your wallet. What you will do through the site is assign a city block to an avatar, which will increase the rate at which it earns the Awakened token. So a city block, for example, will earn 10% of its potential earnings of potential Awakened token earnings if it is unassigned. As soon as you assign it to an avatar, that goes from a 0.1 multiplier, in theory, to a 1.0 multiplier, and then that changes depending on the level of the avatar. So city blocks, they will earn money, and they will earn the Awakened token, but you'll need to assign it to an avatar to get the best potential out of it. And then we've got a load of chat in the AMA channel about Robo Gary and Alien Garys, half humans. It makes it really hard to go through the questions. Awakened DZen09, so it makes it financial sense to convert multipasses to avatars ASAP then. This will be a sliding scale. So the one thing that I will say is that yes, we'll backdate it, and yes, that will make a big difference. But over time, a level 4 avatar will always earn more than a level 1 avatar because the multiplier is so much higher. So having that level 1 avatar that has been minted in December will get you ahead on day 1, but over time, that level 4 will catch up and then overtake. So keep that in mind. Big Beast, can you say why Copernicus is a rare city? No, but you will notice that it is very, very rare. And the global order do need to have a base somewhere. So keep that in mind. And I think... Shamagil, are you going to be capping the collection of the current number or still looking to mint more multipasses? And if more are to be minted, will the mint price be the same? Yeah, so it's likely, as time goes on, that there will be more multipasses available to mint. What we would actually like, and the original vision for this, was that multipasses will be minted just slowly but surely over time. So instead of getting this kind of block where you go from having level 1 multipasses to everybody holding a level 2 and then everybody holding a level 3, you'll get that slow but sure move through level 1, 2 and 3. You know, we could have 100 multipasses minted one day and then 3 minted the next day and then 20 minted the day after. And over time, they move up through the levels. Now that gives a much more kind of natural evolution. The one thing it does do, and this is something that honestly we didn't take into account before we dropped, was that it kind of holds the floor price back until you get to the point where all of the level 1s have moved up to level 2, 3 and 4 and so on. So perceptually, on OpenSea, having that slow but sure move through means that people looking at the project from the outside in probably won't understand why the floor price is a little bit lower than they would expect. But anybody who's in the project will know that a level 1 is never going to be worth as much as a level 4. So we need to be careful with that perception side of things. We wouldn't just mint more multipasses for the sake of it. We would mint them when there is demand. I can already feel that demand starting to come through as more minting happens. Would the mint price be the same? I don't know. It honestly depends how everything's going, what the demand is. We would never increase it. We may think about decreasing it. We may think about decreasing the amount of time that it takes a multipass to move up to level 1. Like we might say that any multipass that's minted from a certain day hits level 1 straight away. So there's a few things that we could do there. DK, similar question. Hopefully I've covered that off already. Chachi, does rarity of an avatar matter in multipliers, earnings, or any other utility? No, rarity isn't built into multipliers, but as we move into combat mechanics, then things like weapons and helmets and armor and those kinds of things may have a bit of an impact with your combat. And the final one, because my throat's going and it's been a long AMA from Kafanamapa. I can't say that properly. I'm really sorry. Really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing behind the scenes. Minted from day 1 and can't wait for the next phase. I really appreciate that. Honestly, we probably didn't take into account how much hard work this was going to be. It's so much fun running this project. It really is, but fucking hell, it's hard work at times, and the amount of late nights that we've had are probably more than I've had with any other thing that I've worked on in my whole life. So yeah, really appreciate all the support that you guys give. We would not want to carry on doing this without you. We know that kind of we are kind of shouting loud a little bit, and then we disappear off into the background and do some work, and then we reappear again. But it's really nice to see people checking in and just saying hi on Discord. So please keep doing that. And like I say, we will make sure that we do as many of these AMAs as possible, and always we're as open as we can. So when things are going great, we tell you. When we've got challenges, we tell you as well, because we're all in this together, and it's how it should be. So yeah, thank you. If you've got any other questions, please drop them into either, like I say, general chat or the vault, and we'll do our best to answer them. We'll probably save any that are follow-ups from the AMA channel as well for next time. But yeah, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you soon.